Thanks for staying with us. Now, we thought we'd show you something different. We'll take you into the gym at the Australian Institute of Fitness and show you how you should work your muscles properly, your memory properly, and of course we've brought the lovely Thamsin in to demonstrate. No, she's going to be the instructor. Darren Fidge, the baseball genius. He's the man on the machines. Tam, a lot of people come into the gyms and then the next day they walk out, neck no good, back no good, legs are no good, not from general soreness, from incorrect procedure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same with anything we do. We always need to start with the bare basics before we progress. One of the challenges we have in the gym is there's so much information out there now. People just jump in feet first and tend not to learn how to move before they start training their muscles. So what we're going to look at today is how to do that, how to move correctly. In sports science, we talk about fascial slings and training the body in big muscle groups, and that helps us to build the building blocks that lay the good foundation for all movements from there.
All right, so you brought the guinea pig in. What would you like to start with?
Yeah, awesome. So today we're going to start with the posterior oblique sling. So Fidge, if I can borrow you for a sec, and if you can turn around. So the posterior oblique sling is a group of muscles that run along the posterior or the back of the body. So we've got our latissimus dorsi that comes through the middle at the thoracolumbar fascia and then down onto the opposite glute, which runs down the leg. And this sling works like a slingshot that holds the body nice and stable. The other thing we can do is use that line to influence how we generate force and generate power. So to start off with, we're going to get this sling firing with a really simple exercise called the fitball bridge. So here's my fabulous fitball. I'm going to get my client to sit on the fitball facing that way for me and then just roll out until he's supporting his neck and his shoulders on the ball. Now I want him to bring his legs in a bit closer so he's hip width apart and just take his feet in towards his bottom a little bit more so that his knees are less than 90 degrees. This is the perfect angle to be at for glute activation. While Fidge's holding himself here, I know that his glutes are firing to keep his body nice and steady. Now I'm going to get him to put his arms up in the air and keeping himself stable, just gently roll side to side on the ball. That's good. And back this way. Try and keep your pelvis level while you're doing it. Good. Back the other way.
So Tam, people walk into the gym
and back this way.
See the fitball.
Good.
And the first thing they do is they sit on it and have a little bounce.
Have a bit of a bounce.
That's fine, but then you touched on it there. The next mistake is they've either got their feet too far out, or legs too far out, or pelvic not straight.
Yeah, absolutely. And Fidge, you can sit up. He's probably wearing out there.
Don't worry about Fidge.
Don't worry about Fidge. It's the same with any activity. You have to have the technique right. A really good rule of thumb to work with is your feet should always be at around hip width apart, joints nice and soft. And any time you're in that bench position, try and get your knees to 90 degrees. That keeps your pelvis straight and protects your lower back.
If I walked into the gym and followed that pattern right now, the first thing I should do then is look at my feet and go, yeah, I'm about, and now I work my way up.
Yeah, absolutely. So we always start from the feet and work up. And if we've got a good base of support, everything else is going to be nice and strong. So from our fitball bridge and moving side to side, creating that little bit of instability, we know that Darren's glutes and his lats are working together. So that posterior sling's really engaged. Now we're going to take it a step further and actually generate some force with our posterior sling. So Fidge, if you can hop up for me. And we're going to do this with a low cable rowing exercise. All good gyms.
I'm doing this bit right.
That's perfect.
Feet a little bit closer, right? Okay, yep.
All good gyms should have a cable setup. So what we get our client to do is to come into the machine in a lunge and row position. So they should have the opposite arm and opposite leg forward working. Starting off at the bottom of the lunge position and coming up and rowing in as they do. Now what we're doing through this is using his left glute with his right lat, so that posterior sling is contracting together, teaching the body to move as one whole. And obviously because we're doing it with resistance, we're working on the power generating capacity of those muscles. Just two more.
Oh, you were counting.
Last one. Beautiful. And down. Excellent. So now we've worked Fidge's posterior sling. We know that everything's combined together, everything's firing at the same time. So the posterior, or the rear of his body, is nice and protected, particularly over his spine. Now we're going to work on his anterior oblique sling. So the anterior oblique sling originates from the external obliques on one side, through the linea alba, which is the line down the tummy, through the internal obliques on the other side, down through the pelvis and on the inside of the leg to the knee. So whereas our posterior sling came on the outside of the leg to the knee, now we're coming on the inside. So we can see how the posterior and anterior slings work together to keep the body nice and stable. This one's pretty fun to work. We're going to start with our client on the floor, lying on their back with their feet on the ground. And we're going to give them a barbell to hold on to. Now, bracing through the core so he stays nice and strong, I'm going to get Fidge to very slowly bring this barbell back towards me. So just nice and gently, just a little bit further. Good. And now slowly towards his knees. Straight away you can see the shaking through the muscles. This isn't a sign of weakness. And back again. This is a sign that his muscles are firing together. So he's getting co-activation of his core along with his upper thorax muscles. So he's got a good rate of firing. Good. Just two more. As we're doing this, his anterior oblique sling is contracting to control this movement and keep him nice and strong. Good. And I'll take that. Now that we've done that, we can get Fidge back up and back onto our cables. We're going to bind this together with a row and push exercise. So Fidge, if I can get one leg forward, so face the machine, one leg forward, one leg back, this leg forward.
Oh, sorry.
Both hands on the rower. And we're going to do a two-hand row into the chest. Two-hand row into the chest, pivot around and push out with one hand. Good. And back in. So it's a two-handed row, pivot and push. This is a great exercise, particularly for athletes, any sport that requires any sort of rotational movement or throwing. So Fidge's a baseball pitcher. This would be a great power generating exercise for him. Anyone who plays netball or tennis or basketball would also really benefit from this movement. Good. Two more. Just make sure you bring that front toe all the way around. Good. Last one.
So when you talk about this one here that Fidge's doing, big talk in a lot of sports is osteoitis pubis. Pubis,
yep, absolutely.
This would help minimise the damage in that, and if you had to rehab it, would this be an exercise under fairly strict supervision?
Yeah.
That would be fairly beneficial for you?
Absolutely. A lot of the problem we hear with osteitis pubis is the pubic symphysis at the front of the pelvis is made up of two parts that are held together by cartilage. And when people have poor muscular control through their core and particularly tight leg muscles, anytime they do a sort of rotational movement, these two bones shear against each other, creating inflammation. So a movement such as this, where you're combining rotation with good core control, would be really beneficial rebuilding an athlete who has had osteitis pubis.
So in saying that, the danger then is if to come and do it incorrectly, you'll probably give yourself
Yeah, absolutely. Pubis. There's always a chance with that, and that's why it's always best to exercise with a registered exercise professional.
Yep. Sorry, next.
Good-o.
Fidge, anything else?
No, that's challenging.
Challenging?
Yeah.
That's good. So now with Fidge, we've worked through his anterior oblique sling and his posterior oblique sling. Both of these work together to hold his body nice and strong, particularly through the lumbar spine, which is a really exposed area. They come down either side of the legs and provide a lot of support through the hips and knees as well. So just by doing these simple 4 building exercises, I now know that all of the control mechanisms in Fidge's body is working so that I can progress to more challenging exercises. I can be safe and confident that I'm not going to hurt my client.
Well, there we have it from the Australian Institute of Fitness. Start properly, get the muscles working properly, otherwise you're going to injure yourself. Australian Institute of Fitness, come and see those people, they'll get you on the right track. We need to take a break, back in a moment.